Hi, and welcome to an extra super duper edition of That's Crap Detection. I'm your host, Dean Venderman, and today I'm super excited to have with me Howard Rheingold, author of NetSmart and the authority on the critical consumption of information, also known as crap detection. Hi, Howard, how are you today?
Great. I wouldn't say I'm the authority. It's something I was probably one of the first earliest people to talk about the importance of crap detection in education. I wrote NetSmart partially about that in 2012. So, 8 years ago.
Cool. Yeah, you kind of answered my first question. I was going to say, how long have you been practicing and preaching the mindful use of digital media? So about 8 years, but it's longer than that, right?
Well, I had a article that was kind of previewing the book that was published in EDUCAUSE in 2010. So I was beginning to develop materials in 2008 and 2009 about that. But as I wrote in the book and some of my other materials, I really started getting involved with this when my daughter was in middle school. And this was in the late 1990s. Remember, Google didn't start till 1999, but
Right.
before that, there was InfoSeek and AltaVista, a number of other search engines. And my daughter in school started using search engines for homework. So I became concerned about that, and I sat down with her and looked at some pages. A couple that I used at that time were MartinLutherKing.org, which is actually run by a racist organization. And then there's another one that's the tree octopus.
I know that too. Yeah.
There are dozens of these, and some of them are jokes, and some of them are more benign, and some of them are what they call astroturfing, and some of them are misinformation.
Right.
When I started writing about digital media, it was really in the 1980s. I wrote Tools for Thought, published in 1985, and The Virtual Community, 1992, and Smart Mobs, 2002. Every time I published one of those, I was asked by reviewers and critics and academics, is this stuff any good for us? So in the 1980s, this stuff meant personal computers. In the 1990s, it meant what we now call social media. In the 2000s, it meant what we now call a smartphone.
Right.
And my answer—
taking me through my life here.
I
had a Commodore 64 back in the day.
All right. Well, now entering college students have never lived in a world without the internet and without the smartphone. So, although the U.S. was a little behind on the smartphone in that it really started with the iPhone here, but people were doing things with phones like Nokia and Samsung a while back.
Right.
But the point was, in the book, I wrote about 5 what I thought were essential social media literacies. These were understandings, skills, fluencies that if you as an individual know them, you will do better. It might even save your life.
Right.
And if more people had more clues about how to use this medium that really doesn't come with a user manual, then that would be an answer to what do we do about improving the commons, which is deteriorating with this tsunami of crap. So the 5 literacies, starts with attention, because that's really the basis of thought and communication. And when I wrote the book in 2010, 2011, you were beginning to see that the smartphone was becoming a challenge. Now, of course, I would ask anybody, if you're standing on a corner in any city in the world and pedestrians are waiting for the light to change, I bet you that at least half of them, if not all of them, are looking at their phones, and some of them while they're walking.
Yeah.
And I bet you everybody who drives on the freeway has had the frightening experience of seeing the person next to them looking at their phone while they're driving at 60 or 70 miles per hour.
Well, here where I
So
live in
clearly,
Canada, they just increased the distracted driving laws. Like you can like spend a lot of money if you're on your phone. There's even police officers that go up and down in buses looking to see if you're on your phone. So I hear exactly what you're saying.
well, the good news about attention is that there are many ways for us to reclaim our attention and to um, establish better attentional habits. The second of the literacies, social media literacies, was crap detection. Um, Again, we live in a world now where you can ask any question, anywhere, anytime, and get a million answers in a second. But it's up to you to determine which of those are going to be accurate and which of them are not. And I'll return to this. It's more difficult than it was when I wrote the book
Right.
by far. There's an arms race going on. The other, I'll just mention the other literacies are participation. You know, the web was not built by giant companies. Or the government. The web was built by millions of people putting up pictures of their cats and links to other people's pages. And we now have the threat of enclosure by Facebook, which has convinced billions of people that Facebook is the web, and you have to do it within their narrow confines. And I hope that we keep participation alive so that in the future, kids will be able to invent things like search engines in their dorm rooms, or people like Tim Berners-Lee will be able to transform the internet into the web without asking permission. But it's getting more difficult. Collaboration, there's so many tools for collaboration and for organizing collective action, from crowdfunding to smart mobs, from Wikipedia to GoFundMe. It's pretty alive.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and finally, network awareness. We live in a networked world, and networks operate according to certain laws and principles, and people who understand how networks work are going to do better. So in the crap detection chapter, I talked about the challenges, and I talked about some of the ways that people can begin to evaluate what's going on when they click on a link.
Right. Cool. Well, this is awesome because it goes right into the questions I'm going to ask you. So the first question is basically in chapter 2 of your book, you mentioned about triangulation. And so what does that mean? And can you please give me an example or two of how triangulation works?
Well, this is something that's a journalist's term. If you hear some breaking news, before you pass that along, you ought to try to find 3 legitimate sources that can verify that. And now particularly with Twitter, we're in an age where rumors can spread very, very quickly. Bad information spreads better than corrections, and that's an issue. I can think of one example was in 2011 during the Arab Spring, when there was the Facebook page and the big demonstrations in Tahrir Square, and there was at the height of it, there was a rumor on Twitter that the Egyptian government had cut down, had shut off the internet. So before I retweeted that, I went and checked, and there was nothing on CNN or the New York Times or the Washington Post yet. But there is a utility called Ping where you can go see whether a website is up. And I tried some websites in Egypt, and none of them were up. So that was one. And then I knew someone who was some of an expert on Egyptian activism, who was on the phone with someone in Egypt, who said yes. They said that the internet was being shut down. And then finally, I saw a report from BBC, and so I felt free to retweet that. There are many instances in which bad information went viral. There was the Haiti earthquake, and there was a tweet that said if you texted a certain phone number, it would send contributions to Haiti. And that actually was the Haitian consulate, and what it did was shut down their phone lines, and it was false. So and then there are false reports of celebrities dying, political uh, uh, false news that spreads very rapidly. So um, triangulation is a way of just stopping and checking before you pass something along. And I think just even thinking, gee whiz, is this really true? Who might know?
Right.
Is a lot better than just mindlessly retweeting it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that think before you act for sure. I know up in Canada, and it went kind of, especially even around the world, we had a bus crash where a bunch of hockey players unfortunately uh, passed away, and one guy went and he did the GoFundMe saying he was for them and he was actually pocketing the money for himself. So yeah, if they would have checked a little bit who's trying to get this money for them, this guy wouldn't have been able to fraud for sure. So. Uh, yeah, unfortunately, there's way too many instances that occurs for sure. Um, Another thing you mentioned in your book is a lot of different fact checking tools that you use. What are maybe your top three or your favorite fact checking tools that you use?
Well, when I was teaching college students, if one of them had to miss class, then their assignment was to repay those hours by helping to find good sources for fact checking. And so we began to compile uh, a Google document. And then later I invited people via Twitter and Facebook to contribute it. So there is a compendium
Yeah.
of sources at bit.ly, bit.ly/crap detect, one word, all lowercase. And so that's the compendium. But I think that Snopes is probably the most well-known one, and it's a good one. PolitiFact is a good one for checking political claims. And Google reverse image search is a really easy way to find out whether images are from right now, or there are a lot of instances where people are saying 2 million people showed up at this political event and they've got this photograph, and the photograph wasn't from yesterday, it was from 8 years ago.
Right.
And you can easily find that out by just dropping that image onto Google image search, and it will tell you what the origin of it was. And I think I'll talk a little bit about how things have become more difficult, but there's something easy that anyone can do, which is Google the author. Find out what other people have to say about the person who's making a certain claim. That's not 100% reliable, but it's a start.
Right. Nope.
So triangulation and Googling the author are two really pretty simple things that anybody can do.
No, that's good. Actually, I've looked at that Google Doc. It's pretty amazing because you cover a wide variety of things from hoaxes to whether it's on social media or different areas, if it's financial or not. So yeah, it is a very valuable source of information for sure.
Well, we're seeing a lot of political misinformation, but also medical information is a big deal. Who has not Googled their symptoms?
Yeah.
There is bad information out there that can kill you. There's information circulating of people saying that you can cure coronavirus by drinking colloidal silver or drinking bleach.
The Tide Pods will come back.
Colloidal silver will not kill you, but if you drink enough of it, it will turn your skin blue permanently. Go look it up.
Yeah. Exactly.
And of course, drinking bleach can kill you.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of cancer cures, but fortunately, we're in an age where there are peer-to-peer patient support groups that have medical experts as part of their community. So you can find good information, and there National Institute of Health has a list. So at that crap detection compendium, if you have a disease or you're a caregiver for a disease, go there first to check out what's out there, because there's a lot of bad stuff out there, and it could kill you.
Well, what you said actually is perfect for my final question. Is that another theme that, and you've been saying, is that you should always keep questioning things and be detective. But how do you find that balance between being a critical thinker and avoiding being like having cynicism on the net and thinking everything's false?
Um, well, I've been accused of being an optimist, which is having confidence that there's going to be a beneficial outcome. Not really an optimist, but I'm hopeful, and hope is a choice. So there is a lot of crap out there, but I know how to use the internet, and it's a tremendous asset to me. I started out as a young writer before the internet, before personal computers. I had a typewriter, I had a telephone, and I had a library card. It's like starting out with a horse and buggy and ending up with a space shuttle that you can fly yourself. So I'm all for the tools that are available out there, but it's really clear that you need to know how to use them. And I think, I want to end on a note that I wouldn't call this pessimistic, but I think that it's a warning that education on critical thinking and crap detection is important. But there's kind of an arms race between being able to detect bad information and being able to get bad information across. There was the Cambridge Analytica scandal with Facebook, where the claim was that they were able to politically manipulate the American voters by using the tools that Facebook makes available to advertisers. You can micro-target tools because they surveil us to such a degree that they know our habits and our preferences, and you can target your advertising to specific groups and influence their opinions without them knowing it. That is made possible by big data. There's billions of users on Facebook, and they collect every click that you make on and off Facebook, and machine learning, which goes through that big data. So we've got these tools that are available to the big guys, to the Facebooks and Googles and Amazons of the world, and they're not available to us. But in addition to that, you've got brigades of trolls. Brigading being a new unfortunate technical term that means you can organize a group of people to attack someone that you don't agree with politically. And by attack, I mean doxing them, publishing information about where they live and where they work, death threats, rape threats, a lot of that in enormous numbers that are organized on these toxic sites like 4chan and 8chan. And so those are real humans who want to do bad things. And then you've got these fake humans, these increasingly realistic bots.
Yeah.
So if you take this combination of the computational propaganda using big data in coordination with coordinated networks of trolls and amplify that by networks of bots, that's a lot of firepower on the deception side.
Right.
So I no longer think that just education alone is sufficient. I think it's necessary, and I think we ought to teach web surfing and crap detection and attention control in elementary school, even before high school.
Yeah.
But I think that regulation of the kind of tools that are being deployed to deceive us, political regulation has got to happen.
Yeah, I know I've been seeing some articles, especially about deepfakes and how deepfakes even threaten democracy because, they look so real sometimes, and you can plant any kind of thing, and you think, oh, I just saw it on a video, it must be real, but it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
But no, is there anything else, Howard, that you like? This is fascinating.
I
appreciate your time, but is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I quit Facebook because I hate Facebook. But I publish my writings and my art making on Patreon. So that's Patreon/Howard Rheingold, one word, lowercase, HOWARD, RHEINGOLD. And I invite people to support me there. You can follow about half of what I post without supporting me. But for $2 or $5 or $10 a month, you get access to exclusive material there. So I'm big on the Patreon model because Facebook and the advertising model on Google, these are all part of what's now known as surveillance capitalism. They make their money by selling our privacy. Patreon creators, whether you are a YouTuber or you're a podcaster, you're an artist and a writer like me, other people pay you like $2 a month. And I think that's a fantastic way of supporting culture that isn't giving our privacy away to one of these monolithic corporations.
Yeah, even in our class, we talked about some people are just coming straight out and saying, "Hey, if you give us your data, we'll give you a coffee or or something like that." So that data thing's definitely on the up and up. No, Howard, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, and your expertise I still think you're the authority. But thanks a lot for being today, part of today's show. That's it for another edition of That's Crap Detection. I'm Dean Benderman. Until next time, make sure you know your crap detection. Thanks again, Howard.
Sure, glad I could help.